And we're going to look back now at the weekend soccer, and it was a hell of a weekend. Some extraordinary results and performances, and I'm joined by John Giles and Liam Brady to discuss them. Liam, an amazing weekend in many ways. Manchester City losing at home, Manchester United losing to Newcastle, Spurs losing 3-0 away to Brighton. Maybe we should start, and of course Arsenal winning 1-0 against Bournemouth. We should start with Manchester United losing 1-0 to Newcastle, a team that really has looked dead and buried since the season started. Was a poor result. They're 12th in the league now, 2 points above the relegation places. It's an extraordinary story, isn't it?
It is, and you would have thought, Eamon, that a team like Manchester United or a club like Manchester United going to Newcastle, who got a right hiding last week against Leicester, that it would be, pretty much an easy game for them if they approached it the right way and if they did their stuff. But they're in such a mess, Manchester United, that even against a team as poor as Newcastle are, they struggle. They really struggle. There's no cohesion to the United team, particularly in midfield. They lack creativity. They're not making chances for the forward players. I know they have a few injuries, and Solskjaer was quick to say that after the game yesterday. But, all in all, with the money that's being spent on that squad, to see them play like they did yesterday was scary if you're a Manchester United fan. Yeah,
John, very, very poor performance. They had one great chance. Fell to Maguire just before half-time. And I thought he flinched a bit when it was only if he really attacked the ball, it was an open goal.
Well, I think there's two things, Eamon. He either felt there was somebody coming behind him, or he was being a little bit too clever.
Yeah.
Like flicking it, the whole goal was in front of him, and just a full header, I think, would have put it away. Or he felt there was somebody coming behind him. But it was a bad miss at the time for Manchester United. But, we're really looking at the good side there.
Yeah.
For that, in that particular situation, because what's happened really since the start of the season, and since I think Solskjaer, apart from the start he made, Eamon, it's got worse.
Yeah.
Solskjaer, I think he's lost, but he comes on and he's saying, well, I think we're going in the right direction and it's going to take time, and it's not going in the right direction. It's going the opposite way. And it'll certainly take time. He's right about that. But from the time he took over to now, and I know he had that great run when he took when he took over initially. But since then, and since he's established himself, it's just got worse.
Yeah, they don't appear, Liam, to have. Yesterday's game was a good illustration of it. Newcastle really are very ordinary, but Manchester United could not play high-tempo football. They couldn't impose themselves on the game at all. Rashford looks woefully lacking in confidence now, and he is really potentially a top-class player. But as you said, in midfield, they don't really have McTominay. Is he ever going to be a Manchester United player? They looked listless, and that's not the Manchester United way, is it?
No, absolutely not. I think, as John said, when Solskjaer went to the club, initially the whole place got a lift. I think it had a really good effect following in after Mourinho's tenure at the club. I think everybody was glad to see the back of Mourinho, and anybody coming in was going to give them a lift. Now, I must admit that the results he got, Solskjaer, and in the league and in the Champions League when they went to PSG and won, I thought he deserved to get the job. But I would agree with John yesterday. Listening to him, he doesn't sound as if he's got the character to handle this type of job. He's talking in riddles, really, saying things are improving and we're going to work hard, and this international window now where they have a break will give us a chance to reassess things. And, they're just really lame excuses for what is not really what Manchester United is all about. And I would agree with you that, McTominay in midfield and Fred in midfield, they just don't look up to it. okay, Maguire had that great chance, as you mentioned, but they really didn't create a chance beyond that. It really is worrying, isn't it? You know?
Yeah, the Pogba wasn't playing yesterday. He's injured, but the Pogba situation in recent months has been a perfect illustration of what shouldn't happen at any club, but certainly not at Manchester United. He's been flirting with Real Madrid, flirting with Juventus. His agent is very active. Even his brother has come out and said, it's time for a change. So he's playing a game with the club.
Yeah.
At the same time, he's probably the highest earner in the team right now. In a good Manchester United, a healthy Manchester United, he'd be cut adrift and got rid of because he's damaging the dressing room.
Don't forget, he was cut adrift, Damon, when he was a young fella. Ferguson.
Ferguson.
Because he would have been behaving in a certain way for his age. The Ferguson thought, I can't stick this guy.
Yeah.
He's got to go. And it's the same with Solskjaer. But you don't know if Solskjaer's in charge of the whole situation. And this is the problem. Can he go to the club and say, I want this fella out?
Yeah.
In fact, when I hear Solskjaer talking about Pogba, he's brilliant.
Yeah.
He's saying he's a great lad at the club. I don't have any problem with him. I don't this. And you think, well, why isn't he playing? And, it's the same lad it's gone public, who's more or less saying he wants to get away. And the manager who's saying, well, he's a good lad and I'll stick with him and he's doing this and he's doing that. The other. I mean, he's at the centre of the problems. There's no doubt about that. But the big problems, there's a lot surrounding Pogba that's not there.
Yes, of course there is a lot of things, but in terms of morale, I mean, the difference between the two teams yesterday was Newcastle actually had a go. These two young brothers played in midfield, Matty Longstaff and his brother, Sean. And they really had a go. They wanted to play, and whatever tempo was set by Newcastle, and that's actually how they got their winning goal. But they upped the tempo. The more the game went on, the more Newcastle were up for it, the less United were up for it. Now, an awful lot of that is to do with morale.
Well, it's all to do with morale. Yeah. I mean, your starting point going out on the football pitch for any team is you're going to do the best you possibly can. That's your starting point. Whether you have ability or you don't have ability or a lot of ability, your starting point is having a go.
Yeah.
And after that, then you judge the players on the skill they have. But having a go, you don't need skill to have a go. And again, it's morale. You see, we've spoken about it before, whether it be at Spurs or anywhere else. It's very hard to define morale. The morale usually comes from a steady club with a manager that you believe is going to be there forever, and you're going to be there forever, and you got everybody in the club in that dressing room is going to go out to have a go at each other. Now, if you look at the players at Manchester United, I don't think they think that Solskjaer is going to be there forever. I don't believe that they believe he's in charge of the situation. Yeah. And when they look around the dressing room and see, well, he's not very good, he's not good, or whatever it might be, that's morale. You go out on the pitch and you can't switch it on. You either have it or you don't have it. And the fact is that Manchester United are not being led. Solskjaer to me looks like a boy in charge of the situation.
Yeah.
I mean, what Manchester United at the moment is a young Ferguson.
Yeah.
Or a Conte, in my opinion, who can go and get a grip of this lot and be in charge of the transfer system, who comes and who goes. I mean, if you go back over, say, Ferguson, for example, I know he got rid of Pogba when he was a young fella, but can you imagine Ferguson living with Pogba over the last 2 years? No way in a million years, Eamon, would that happen. Now, that's how you judge Manchester United. I know we said it's the Manchester United way, but Ferguson, after Busby, made the Manchester United way. Yeah. Right? Solskjaer can talk about it, we want the Manchester, but he can't do it. And that's the huge, big problem. And they've got to get a manager in my opinion. That's the starting point.
Yeah, Liam, it appears that there's no way Solskjaer can dominate and control the situation and demand the things that he needs. So in those circumstances, he has to really go. And the next game is Liverpool at home. If they were to lose that, I think that might be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Well, it could very well be, because the guys upstairs they look at the league table and start saying, oh, we're not going to make the Champions League positions again, and that's criminal for a club like Manchester United. So that may very well be the case. But one thing you'd have to say in defence of Solskjaer, he's inherited a monumental mess.
Yes. Yes.
You talked about Pogba, but there's others as well. There was the Sanchez situation when he's earning 600 and over 600,000 per week, and the other players are looking at him and he's not doing his stuff.
Yeah.
Lukaku was allowed go. No replacement was brought in for him. Mourinho signed the likes of Fred. He signed the likes of Matic. He signed the likes of Lindelof, who are not good enough for Manchester United. So he really has inherited a real mess. And I think Gary Neville, I don't know whether you heard that yesterday after the match, was saying that his brief really is to sort all this mess out.
Yeah.
But you need to have a strong character to be able to do that, and that's the point that John's making.
Yeah.
Remember when Matt Busby left Manchester United, Eamon?
I do.
They went through about 5 or 6 managers before Ferguson took the reins, and that could very well be the case again. You know, they're light years away from winning a title or winning a Champions League with this team.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And just to take one example from the list there, you named Fred. Shakhtar Donetsk were willing to accept 25 million, and their chairman has publicly said on the record a couple of months ago, when Manchester United came along and offered 60 million, they couldn't believe their luck, and their Fred ended up at Old Trafford. Can't blame Solskjaer for that, can you, John?
No, but I know we can have a laugh about it. But what was the scouting system doing? What is the scouting system doing?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. People say, I don't think Giles Solskjær, in fact, is in charge of who comes in.
Ed Woodward is probably in charge. He is the chief at the club. And just to say,
Eamon, there's a lot of football clubs now. When we were playing, us three, and even beyond me, football clubs were football clubs who were trying to be good at business. Now it's the opposite. Football clubs are businesses. They're trying to be good at football, you know? And football, a big part of football, as John said, is the scouting, is the recruitment.
Yes.
So who is in charge of what's been going on at Manchester United? Is it Ed Woodward, who might be a very good businessman, but what does he know about football? And that's Manchester United are not the only club. You know, they're not the only club who are trying to be good at football and making a mess of it, you know?
Yeah, just to make the point, I was going to make it to both of you. Week before last, it was announced that Manchester United are the richest club in the world. They're making more money on merchandise in the Far East, all over the world, than any other club, including Real Madrid and Barcelona. That is a triumph for Ed Woodward, who is a marketing man.
Well, that's true, Eamon, but there's room for a marketing man.
Yeah.
And a football man. You see, what's happened in Liam is quite right in what he's saying. We're the businessmen. We've no room for a football man.
Yeah.
You see, it's no coincidence. And when Ferguson was in charge for the 20-odd years that he was with, his brother was his scout.
Yes.
And obviously he could trust his brother. Is he any good? I'll have a look at him. He could trust him to get the players in. Now, what's happening now is what the clubs are doing, they're introducing, if it's not Woodward doing it, a director of football.
Yep.
And if he employs a director of football, it's his director of football. So if the director of football comes to him and says, I've seen Joe Bloggs and I think he's very good, and Woodward agrees with him, they get him. The manager's not in it.
Yeah.
The manager's not. He might be asked, "What do you think of him?" But he hasn't got to say no. He's what I want. So football men, Eamon, as we know, you take Shankly and all these other guys, they would never be businessmen in a million years. No. But they knew football.
Yeah, and
the businessmen don't trust them to do it.
On that point, Edwin van der Sar, former Manchester United goalkeeper and outstanding goalkeeper, who has been at Ajax and has done wonderful work there. He was rumoured to be taking the job at Old Trafford. In the end, he didn't take it. So maybe it was because he wasn't going to get the kind of authority that he felt he needed. Liam, just in contrast, before we move on to Manchester City and indeed to Spurs, who have massive problems, to contrast, Liam, the performance of Chelsea's young players under Frank Lampard, with the performance by the United players, Abraham, Mason Mount, Hudson-Odoi, Batshuayi scored yesterday, and he's been in the side very often and missed a lot of chances. But Frank Lampard appears to have giving these lads their chance and giving them the confidence and persevered with them. And it's paying off now. They were very impressive, I thought, at Southampton and have been over the last few weeks.
Yeah, they're struggling a little bit at home to get results. Maybe there's a little bit more pressure at home. But there's a purpose about them. There's a strategy about the team and what's going on. Now, I suppose that had something to do with the fact they couldn't buy anybody, have a transfer ban hanging over them. And I think it's also a strategy of Lampard that he's gone to Abramovich and said, look, now is the time with this transfer ban. Let's give our young players a chance. Like Chelsea have won the FA Youth Cup for the last 6 or 7 years, Eamon. It's incredible.
Right. Yeah.
And they have all these players out on loan, like Abraham was out on loan, Mason Mount was out on loan. And I think Lampard decided, look, let's find out if they're good enough. I think they're worth trying. I've seen them. I've seen them playing in the Championship, and I think they could be up to it. And it's paying off for them. But there's a purpose about what they're doing. There's a strategy about what they're doing. And that is contrasting with what's going on at Manchester United, where they seem to be, don't really understand what's happening on the field of play. The team is chopping and changing, where Lampard has a lot of good pros as well with these kids.
Yes, he has.
Don't forget, they've got Kante, they've got Alonso,
Willian,
Aspilicueta, Willian. So they've got good players to complement these young kids, and they're thriving, particularly Abrahams and Mason Mount. Now, Adoy played I think he had his first league start of the season yesterday.
Yeah. And
he's a very, very good player as well. So I would expect Chelsea to have a very good season, and I wouldn't be surprised if they make the Champions League top positions to the top 4.
Now, John, I saw a lot of Derby last year. I was interested just to see Lampard. I always thought Lampard might, make a coach, a real good coach. He's a bright guy. Mason Mount was actually there on loan, and he had loan players. But the way Derby approached it, they got to the final in the Championship playoffs, beaten by Aston Villa. But he turned the club around, and every team he fielded, they were sharp, they were aggressive. There was a good shape to them, and there was an intensity to them. And he's brought the same qualities to Chelsea now, and that's something that's missing from the Manchester United.
Well, he's a different character, Solskjaer. I mean,
yeah.
He's a different character on the pitch.
Yeah.
I know it always doesn't always work out that way. But he was a more dominant player on the pitch. I mean, Solskjaer was a terrific finisher, as we know. Wasn't really a regular for Manchester. And I don't want to go back. I'm not having a go at him. But Lampard did something solid about him.
Yeah.
There was a presence about him on the pitch, and he's brought that into his management, and he's done very well doing what he did at Derby. The Chelsea situation, in many ways, he's up against it a bit, but can be a help. It can be a plus. Yeah. Nobody's expecting too much of him, Eamon.
Yeah.
And he is giving these players a chance.
Yeah.
Because he has to.
Yes.
He's
making a virtue of necessity.
Exactly, which is great. I mean, if he had come in and there was plenty of money to spend, there's no doubt he would have spent it.
Yeah.
And these players would be where they were before. They'd be and we know from players, if you get a player that's 18, going on 19 at the most, who's not getting a chance, they can lose interest.
Yeah.
You get to 20, 21, and they don't feel right. Like you have to take that chance when you're 18, 19.
Yeah.
And at Chelsea, they haven't been given that chance.
No, and all the big clubs with established top-class players, there is a blockage there, isn't there?
Totally. You can't. I mean, Chelsea, you couldn't get in. They've had these players for years, and there's other players that Chelsea have had to go out on loan.
Yeah, Loftus-Cheek is a good example. He's injured now, but he's a player who's been talked about, and as Liam said, they've won 6 or 7 youth cups.
But you have to give them that chance, Eamon. If you go back to the Busby Babes, for example, the Busby was putting players in at 17 and 18, had never been done before, and they came through that. But if you take a lad and he's really outstanding at 17 and he's out on loan, he knows he's not, and you don't know what influences they're coming under.
Yes, when they're away.
When they are away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody in the third division's telling them a lot, and could be. I'm not saying they all do. But they're not part of the club, and they don't feel part of the club. And that youthful enthusiasm dwindles the older you get, from 18 to 19 to 20 to 21.
And you don't see a path forward.
You don't see it, Eamon. And you lose interest in it, or can lose interest in it. Whereas this case with Lampard, he can't afford to buy players. He has to put these players in. And that can be a plus for him, because they're given an opportunity in the first team.
Liam, just to say that Alan Hansen famously said that you win nothing with kids. When Ferguson introduced Beckham, Scholes, Nicky Butt, Ryan Giggs into the Manchester United team, they lost the game early in the season, I think, at Aston Villa. I remember watching Match of the Day, and Hansen was scathing. But there's something reminiscent of that in what Frank's doing at Chelsea. Just putting them in, letting them go and having a go.
Yeah, and as John said, the pressure's off because there is a transfer ban, and Abramovich has kind of pulled his horns in as regards spending and wages and things like that. I think he's not as going to be as active as he has been, and I think it suits him as well to be giving these kids a chance. And there's a good atmosphere around the club. They're going to have hiccups along the way. They had a bad result in the Champions League, didn't they, at home? But you know, they'll be learning all the time, and they'll be growing and developing, and they'll be better. Come, you know, the second half of the season, you know, I can see Chelsea, as I say, pushing into that top four.
And we must remember that Manchester United beat them 4-0 at the first game in the season. Now,
yeah, but that was kind of a bit of a lie.
No, absolutely.
There was a kind of a bit of a lie. Chelsea played well on the day.
They did, yeah.
Man United took every one of their chances, and Chelsea squandered a few. So it could have been a different story. And you know, I'm not saying that I'm wise after the event or I knew what was going to happen, but I knew that Lampard has some real quality in these young players, and I'm glad he's given them a chance, and it's working out for them, and it's good to see, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, Liam, Tottenham Hotspur's problems are massive. They have a £1 billion stadium, but they don't have a team at the moment, and for an Arsenal person, that won't be a matter of great sorrow. But their defeat of Brighton, Liam, 3-0, they didn't really try a leg. They were poor.
Well, I didn't see that one. I didn't see that match, Eamon, so I can't say whether there was a lack of effort or not. But you'll probably, and John,
John, we both saw it. Yeah,
I didn't see that. I saw the goals, all right. And it was great to see our young lad, getting his chance and scoring 2 goals.
Yes.
And you know, it's good to see that he's been called up into the squad against Switzerland. He's a dangerous player. He came on against Newcastle the week before and very nearly scored. Newcastle kind of had to hook it off the line. But going back to Tottenham, they're all over the place at the moment. There's no pace at the back. People are getting in behind them. Alderweireld and Vertonghen look slow all of a sudden. And they have real problems, but I didn't see the match. So
okay, well, John and I did, and we were talking during it. John, they didn't try like some of them. And Aaron Connolly is the lad that Liam's talking about.
Yeah.
He really played well.
Yeah, he looks a player, Eamon. Yeah, he does.
Intelligent as well. Yeah. His movement for the goals, off the ball, was very good.
Yeah, with a bit of luck, it's just it'll be what we just need in the international team. But he certainly showed it, and he showed a good intelligence play. Finished well, so fingers crossed that he will be as good as he promises to be. From Spurs' point of view, I think they didn't try a leg inside, but you have to look at what leads a team like that to not be trying the way they should be trying. And it goes back, it hasn't happened overnight. This has gone back a year or two, where Pochettino said at the start of the season, I don't want to be called the manager. Now, the reason he was saying that was because they have 2 people there, I don't know their names, who are directors of football or whatever they do for the scouting system.
Yeah, I mean, the man who's running Tottenham, John, is Daniel Levy.
Yeah.
And he's always run Tottenham.
Yeah.
Going back to when they sold Gareth Bale, they sold Modric, he sacked Harry Redknapp, he sacked other people, but he is the man who runs the club.
Yeah.
And the problem is Eriksen's out of contract, Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Danny Rose. Now, they're being paid the worst wages in the Premier League, apart from Harry Kane, who got a deal. It's a problem. They're letting the contracts run down. That's the problem. Pochettino can't influence it because Levy calls the shots when it comes to contracts. That's a problem.
Well, that's the relationship they have, Eamon, and that's why Pochettino said at the start of the season, I'm not the manager, because there was obviously a meeting between Levy and the two other guys. I don't know their names, who were influential in the selling and the buying.
Yeah.
Right. Now, if again he's got two guys there that I don't know their names. They're Levy's guys.
Yeah,
right?
no, I know.
They're not Pochettino's guys. So when it comes to putting up your hand who we go for or who we don't go for, Pochettino's out of it.
Which is incredible when you consider what he's achieved at the club with fairly limited resources. They went 3 transfer windows, they never bought a player. They bought one player in the summer. He looks useful, and Dembele, who looks useful. But the Pochettino situation now looks pretty hopeless.
Well, it is, Eamon. But again, it's what it leads to. You know, see that the player that you mentioned that they bought in the summer, that mightn't have been his buy.
No.
You know, I see. The point is, I'm saying this in a certain way. I don't think he's in charge. Pochettino is not in charge of the coming and goings. No. I don't think he's even in charge of agreeing contracts with players.
No,
as you say, there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 players out of contract at the end of the season. Yep. Eriksen's situation is that he wants to go. He could have gone. Now, when you're sitting in the dressing room with those players, Eamon, and one of the Dyer could go, Wanyama could go, and we know as players, you're coming into a dressing room, and there's 6 or 7 guys who are on their way out.
Yeah.
Right. Now, when you're building morale, and morale is a very difficult thing to describe. Morale, what is morale? It's usually the manager's there, happy at the club, and the players that he's signing are happy in the club, and they're all playing for each other. Now, we know for a fact that's not the case at Tottenham.
Yes.
In fact, the manager is not getting on with the boss.
Yeah.
Right? Then Pochettino made a comment a few weeks ago. There's players in the club have a different agenda.
Yeah.
Right? Now, who is he talking about there?
I'll tell you. Eriksen wanted to get away.
Yes.
He's letting his contract run down. Alderweireld is letting his contract run down.
Yeah.
Vertonghen, Danny Rose, I believe, has contract issues. And there's also, there's rumours of interpersonal relationships, which I won't go into because they're not particularly relevant.
When you have that situation, the players you mentioned, and we know that, and he's saying it's gender club, how can you have a morale?
Yeah.
You know, football is very, very difficult to win when everybody's together out there having a go. If you've got it split up, the ultimate thing that happens is what happened on the pitch. The great thing about football, if things are not right, it manifests itself on the pitch.
Yes.
You can't pretend that you have the morale to do it. It shows on the pitch. And what we saw on the pitch in Southampton is what's happened over a few years, 2 or 3 years, with the manager, the chairman, and the players. That's what you get when things happen in the way that they happened over the last 2 or 3 years for Spurs.
Liam, I mean, it's Daniel Levy's club very much, isn't it? The whole idea of the new ground stadium, which is magnificent, that's his idea, and he really controls the business of players' contracts and all of that, as far as we know. And
I think the owner is a guy called Joe Lewis.
He is, yeah.
Daniel Levy works for him, but Joe Lewis seems to give him a free run of it. You know, but you'd have to say in Levy's defence that things have been good just up till recently, haven't they? You know,
yeah.
Okay, I know they lost quite a few Premiership games last year, but they did get to the Champions League final, something that Spurs team never done. So. He has run the club well, but I've seen this particular thing, players running down the contract, happen at Arsenal over recent seasons, and it really does cause problems. And morale is the right word. Morale, as John has mentioned, can't possibly be maintained when you're looking around the dressing room and you're thinking this guy could go any minute, or he wants to leave and he wants to leave, or someone's got sorted out with a contract. And you have to remember that Harry Kane sorted out the contract, but so did Dele Alli, and Dele Alli hasn't kicked the ball for a season and a half, in my opinion.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
You know, it's not right there, and that's why the results are bad. And you know, Pochettino can also give his body language, can also create negativity as well. Like
yes.
He's saying, "Well, I'm not the manager. Don't call me the manager. I'm just a coach," you know.
Yeah.
So maybe he's looking for a way out as well. I don't know, but it's certainly turned around at Spurs. They have serious problems.
Yeah,
I think he should have gone, Eamon Pochettino. I think he should have gone.
He signed a new 5-year deal.
I know.
I think if they sack him, they got to pay him. I'm not sure if it's 18 or 18 million.
That's a money situation. But I think at the start, he knew what was happening in the summer. And I think he knew this is not going to change. I think he should have gone then. Yeah. And he would, with his reputation, if I were Manchester United, I'd still go for him now.
Yeah.
But certainly, I think he was wrong to sign the contract because he wasn't happy for the last 2 years. Yeah. And I know that obviously the contract would be an attraction to him. But for his long-term future and the situation he was in, where he was a very, very wanted manager, if that's the right word, to say, look, this is not, leave it. He knew within summer when he said about the manager situation, he wasn't going to get what he wanted. I think he would have been off, said, thanks very much, I'm off.
Right. Okay, now Manchester City. Liam, John and I discussed this last week, the back four situation, Laporte injured, and it's a serious injury, Stones injured, but not too serious. Left with Otamendi and Fernandinho, and really they were cut to ribbons by Wolves, who only won 2-0, and the goals came in the last 10 minutes. But in the first half, they could have had 2 or 3 goals on the counter-attack. And they're a decent team, but that was a massive result in terms of the Championship, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, they're always susceptible to counter-attack because they throw much. They throw so much at the attacking side of the game, and they get so many players so far forward, and they sometimes just leave 2 and 2 at the back. And at the moment, with Otamendi and Fernandinho, they're not good enough to leave 2 and 2 at the back. No. You need cover, you need numbers, but. You're right. Cutrone and Jimenez could have scored in the first half. They were clean through on goal.
Yep.
So the warning signs were there, and you have to hand it to Wolves. Tactically, they were very good. They packed out the defence. They gave very little space to Man City, and then caught them on the break. And the reason they caught them on the break is because Otamendi's playing centre half, and so is Fernandinho. I think they've got mistakes in them. Fernandinho, a very, very good holding midfield player, but must have question marks about centre half, and certainly also Mendy down through the seasons that we've watched him is very prone to making mistakes. So, and there's also maybe a factor here that it could be a little bit overconfidence when they're playing. You look at the teams they lose to this season. They've lost to Norwich away, and they've lost to Wolves at home. Last season, I think they lost to Wolves as well.
Crystal Palace
at home. So there may be a factor in there that they might be a little bit overconfident or complacent. But to give Liverpool 8-point start now, it's going to take a hell of a comeback. And I don't know, going forward with that defence, I think there are more banana skins out there.
Yeah, John, Wolves are a good side. They've had a bad start to the season because they've been in that Europa League as the kiss of death. But they've been playing since early July, trying to qualify, and they have qualified. But they are a good team.
They're very good, Eamon. And on Thursday, they were away in Turkey.
They were,
normally Istanbul, the teams coming back from that really suffer in that Europa League. No, they're a very, very good team. And they deserve to win the match.
Yeah, and the guy who got the goals, Traore, now he came on, he's an impact sub usually, but he started yesterday and played the back 5, 2 up front and 3 in midfield. But it was quite brave to play 2 up front. However, Traore was moved. They played him up front. And they had a right go at his pace.
Well, he is what he is, and we've seen him before. He's a brilliant fella. But when you said he played 2 up front, actually, any times I didn't see the whole match. Actually, I saw some of it, but they had 10 defending.
Yeah,
I mean, they didn't leave 2 up front. In the match, and they defended well. What I saw, they gave Manchester City very, very little space. Very, very little space to play. But I think it could be the beginning of a demise for Manchester City. I mean, all teams have their time. They have the spend. One or two players getting a bit older.
Yeah. David Silva, in particular, who's been a great player for them. De Bruyne missing yesterday, and that's important because when he's playing well, he's a very effective
but he hasn't played
player.
well for a couple of years, Eamon.
No.
You know, like we've spoken about him before. He's a bit moody, and he hasn't been the same player since that 2 years ago. Anytime he's getting his hands up, he looks to be. He'd like to kick up the backside, to be quite honest. But it happens with teams. You know, they have their spell, they have their time, and unless they buy young players and reintroduce that go attitude, it happens, and it's probably happening to them now. That's the way I would read it. And
I watched them against Dinamo Zagreb in the Champions League on Wednesday. Took them a long time, and Dinamo Zagreb were poor. Took them a long time to break them down. They won 2-0 in the end, but it's a game that you'd expect them to win very comfortably, but they didn't. At Everton, Liam, last week, you know, it was 1-1. Everton were making a match of it until their keeper made an error. So the energy and ruthless efficiency that I saw in the first few games of the season, actually, I thought first game of the season, I thought they were awesome. The energy seems to have gone out of them, Liam.
Yeah, I don't know what you put it down to. Obviously, they're missing very important defenders, and De Bruyne is injured at the moment as well. But you know, they can play an awful lot better than they did yesterday, and obviously when they lost at Norwich, and I think that is their weakness. There's a little bit of complacency in that team. I think they're going to just turn up and win, and football's not like that.
No, not at all.
You've got to be doing the right things all the time. But that's not to say they just, you know, won't get the show back on the road. I think if Liverpool are going to still going to have a fight at it, and it's going to come from Man City this season.
That's for sure. John, to go to Liverpool, they got out of jail. A penalty in the 95th minute, and I must say I didn't think it was a penalty. I thought it was a dive. Very little touch.
Well, they don't need much touch now. The fact is that the fella did make contact with Mane. He did make contact, and there was no need to. Mane had the ball the other side of him, so there was contact. But you know what the players now, Eamon.
It was all Brighton.
Well, if you blow it up, if you blow at them, they're going to go over if there's a chance to get a penalty kick. But I didn't think Liverpool were at their best in the match. You know, they got away with it with the penalty, and but I did think it was a penalty. But they got away with it. It's one of those days where you don't play as well as you can play, and you get the win, which is great to do. But I was a bit disappointed with Leicester, Eamon, to be quite honest. And I think Brendan Rodgers made a terrible mistake. He took Maddison off.
Yeah.
Like, I know a lot of the managers do, we put on the holding midfield player. Like, the best way to hold a blooming game is to get the ball.
Yeah.
And Maddison is your best man for doing that, you know, in my opinion. But anyway, you know, I expected more from Leicester as well, Eamon, to be quite honest.
Liam, sometimes you need a break, and Liverpool certainly got one. Did you think it was a penalty?
I disagree with you. I thought it was a penalty, I thought all Brighton was stupid, you know.
Yeah.
You don't go near people in the box. You don't tackle people in the box anymore. You know, you block and you stand up straight, and you don't give them a glimpse of the goal. And actually, Mane had his back to the goal.
He did, yeah.
When
he was going nowhere fast.
No, but he went over quite easily. But as John said, they all do now, and you're risking it when you touch them, you know. So I thought Liverpool should have had the game over and done with in the first half hour. They were wasteful in front of goal. They were missing chances and so forth. And the longer the game went on, then they dropped, and you know, Leicester got that goal. But you need a bit of luck, don't you, Eamon? You need a bit of luck,
sure.
And they got it in the last minute. But deservedly clear in the league. They're a very, very good side.
Arsenal, Liam, third in the Premier League. Is this it?
I got a text from a friend today saying, "How are we third?" You know, and I'm scratching my head as well. But it's because of all the teams around us. Look how Man United are struggling. Look
Spurs.
How Tottenham are struggling. Yeah. Look how Everton are struggling, who were supposed to be a contender, you know, to to get up there. So I don't think they say the league table never lies, but at the moment I think Arsenal's position is a false position. If they finish there in the top four at the end of the season, I'll be surprised, to be quite honest.
They have, just before I let you go, Liam, they have a few really good young players that I've seen. He's introduced into the team. Saka, I think.
Yeah, they bought a Brazilian called Martinelli. We haven't really seen him in the Premiership, but he's played in the Carabao Cup, and he's also played in the Europa League. Then they have some homegrown players, the likes of Willock, who I think is a very good player. He's an all-action player, can run with the ball, can pass it, covers the ground, and he's played well in those competitions also. He's also had a couple of games. He actually played up at Liverpool, and he had a difficult game, and had a difficult game at Norwich, and he's probably lost his place because of that. But he's a lad with promise. The new kid that's come in Saka, he's only 17. He's been at the club since he was an 8-year-old, and he's got talent. He's fast.
Tierney, Liam, Tierney's a very good player. They bought from Celtic.
To see him as well, and Bellerin came back during the week. So I think the team that's playing in the Premiership at the moment can be improved, and I'd love to see him have the bottle, Emery, to leave Xhaka out. He's left Ozil out completely of the last 3 games, and I think that should have been done a long time ago. And I'd like to see Xhaka lose his place as well. I'd like to see someone come in there, one of those young players that we've talked about, taking his place, because I think he, as captain, is not the leader that you're looking for. He makes mistakes. He's rash. And yesterday, I watched Match of the Day. I wasn't at the game. I watched Match of the Day, and although they won, they last 20 minutes, Bournemouth had a right few chances, and it could very easily have been the other way around.
Yeah, John, I saw you nodding your head vigorously in agreement with Liam about Xhaka.
I don't know how he puts up with him. Liam, I'm sure doesn't know, but he's captain.
Made him captain.
Like every time I see him, he's fouling somebody. He's looking at the referee and say, "What's happened?" Totally. I mean, the penalty he gave a few weeks ago in a tight match, I just wouldn't have him near the place. And he's captain of the team, so it's not saying much for the manager, to be quite honest. If he doesn't spot this guy as a total nuisance and makes him captain and trouble, I'd be like Liam. If I was an Arsenal supporter, I would definitely pray. Well, if I said any prayers, to get rid of this guy.
Well, he'll be playing against Ireland next Tuesday.
That's the only good game he's had this season.
Well, you'll have a chance to look at him again on Tuesday night next week, Liam. Thanks very much to Liam and John.